by an 800-pound boulder. For 127 hours, Aron Ralston lay pinned in a Utah canyon with no signal, no rescue plan, and no way out, until he broke his own bones and cut through skin, tendon, and nerve with a dull multi-tool to escape. What he endured before that final, agonizing choice will shake you to the core. On that fateful day, after a small breakfast in his truck parked at the trailhead, 27-year-old Aron Ralston strapped on his hydration pack, grabbed a few snack bars, and hopped on his mountain bike with just enough supplies for the day, assuming he'd be back by nightfall. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. It was just a quick solo trip, or so he thought. No one knew he was out there. The day was going well. A few hours after he entered the narrow sandstone slot canyons of Bluejohn, he even spent time with two lost hikers, Megan McBride and Christy, whom he helped navigate the area and showed some basic climbing moves before continuing alone into the canyon. However, everything would change around 2:45 p.m. when disaster struck. Aron was maneuvering down a narrow passage about 3 feet wide when he stepped on a suspended boulder wedged between the canyon walls. The rock shifted when his weight pressed down, and Aron fell about 10 feet. He managed to land on his feet, but the boulder followed right after and slammed down, pinning his right forearm against the canyon wall, immediately trapping him. At that very moment, Aron was in pain and began to panic. He tried pulling, twisting, and yanking his arm with strength, but the 800-pound rock wouldn't budge. He even screamed at the top of his voice, hoping for a miracle, but none came. After a while, Aron finally accepted his fate. No help was coming, because no one would have guessed there was a guy 30 meters below the surface and 20 miles from the nearest road. Aron's next move was to take stock of his gear. All he had on him were a dull multi-tool with a small blade and pliers, a video camera, a few snack bars and 2 burritos, less than a liter of water, some climbing ropes and carabiners. Trying to handle things himself, he had to figure out how to get his arm out. He had 3 options on how to do that. The first was to chip away at the boulder using the multi-tool. The second was to wait for someone to find him. And the last, which he dreaded imagining, was that he would have to cut his arm off. Aron then began chipping. Even though the rock was sandstone, it was dense, and after hours of scraping, he had barely made a dent, and he would spend his first night trapped and in pain. The next morning, Aron tried creating a makeshift pulley system using his climbing gear, hoping that he could shift the boulder using leverage. But the pulley did not have enough tension, and moving the massive rock with just one hand was impossible. Still, he was optimistic, but after a while, he realized that the miracle he hoped for would not come, so he started recording himself.
My name's Aron Ralston. My parents are Donna and Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them. Be sure of it, I would appreciate it.
The desert sun became extremely hot during the day, and the night was freezing. Aron had now gone over 48 hours without sleep and was severely dehydrated. He had also begun hallucinating slightly, but was still trying everything he could to survive. After hours of being trapped, blood flow had entirely stopped in the arm and started to decompose. Aron could no longer feel it, and he reasoned that his only way out might be amputation.
Brainstorm what I was going to use, how I could use it to operate on myself, what I could use for a tourniquet, what I could use for padding, to what I could use for a splint, things like that.
Still, he couldn't bring himself to try. Not yet. On the 3rd day, Aron's food was nearly gone, and he was out of water. Desperate, he began considering something unthinkable: drinking his urine.
I started saving my urine because I knew that that was at least going to need to be an option, if nothing else.
That day, he did, gulping it down slowly in the hope of staving off total dehydration. By sunrise on day 4, Aron had been trapped for over 90 hours. His urine since the day before had a strong ammonia taste, and he could no longer drink it. His right hand had also become grey, bloated, and lifeless. He couldn't move or feel it anymore as the flesh started to rot, and flies and ants were gathering around the canyon walls, attracted to the smell of decay. He could feel life slipping, so he recorded a farewell message. He also started hallucinating periodically, and in one of them, he saw himself as a one-armed man holding a young boy. That image would drive his next decisions.
It's gonna be a really long time before anybody gets to me. Jesus. I tried cutting my arm off. I couldn't even barely break the skin with this stupid knife. I tried a couple different blades, and all I did was just mark myself up. I could barely even get any blood to draw.
The moment Aron regained consciousness, he looked at his decaying arm and then realized that gangrene had likely set in. Around midday, he made his first attempt at amputation. With a dull, 2-inch blade in his multi-tool, he tried to slice through the skin on his forearm, but the blade was too dull to do more than cause shallow cuts. It wouldn't get through muscle, but not bone. He realized he was stuck between 2 bones, the radius and the ulna. He tried using the pliers to bend or break them, but the leverage wasn't enough. His body was too weak, and the tool was too fragile. The pliers slipped off the bone, leaving deep bruises and more pain. His first amputation attempt failed, completely. Aron spent the evening crying, screaming, and fading in and out of consciousness. As night came, he used his climbing rope seat harness to sleep upright again, his legs stiff and sore, and his body shutting down. Day 5 began with something different: clarity. He mistakenly came in contact with his thumb while trying to chip at the rock once again with his dull knife. And that's exactly when he realized something really shocking. His hand had started decomposing while still attached to his body.
That made me curious, and I started prodding around, and I stuck the knife down in and at my thumb at that spot, and it slid in like I was sliding it into a pat of warm butter, and it went in. I couldn't feel it, of course, but it went in about a 1/2 inch, and then this hissing sound of gas, the decomposition gases releasing from inside my arm, my hand, where they'd been building up as my hand was decomposing over those 5 days. And that threw me into a panic. It scared me. It appalled me. It was a gruesome concept that my hand was decaying while still attached to my body.
And the next thing he needs to do now is to break the bones.
My body against the opposite wall, I grabbed the backside of the boulder and even got my feet up to where I was standing halfway up the wall and grabbing the backside of the rock and humping my body over it until finally that bottom bone snapped.
He began slicing through the skin, muscle, and tendons. The dull blade made it agonizingly slow. The most challenging part was cutting through the main nerve in his arm. As he reached it, he described the sensation as an electrical fire. The bolt of unimaginable pain nearly knocked him unconscious. After over an hour, Aron finished cutting through the last tissue and muscle. At approximately 11:30 a.m., he freed himself from the boulder after 127 hours trapped. Now free, He was weakened, bleeding, and miles from help, but he had no choice. Aron painstakingly wrapped the stump of his arm with a camelback tube and began a brutal 6-mile hike back toward his truck, which took hours. After several miles of staggering through the canyon floor and toward the trailhead, Aron finally made contact with people, a Dutch family of hikers, Eric Meyer, his wife Monique, and their son Andy, who were vacationing in Utah. Stunned to see someone in that state, the Meyer family immediately gave him water and cookies and ran to get help. But, incredibly, rescue was already on its way. Aron's friends and co-workers had started getting worried after not hearing from him. His boss reported him missing while his family filed a missing persons report. Because Aron hadn't left a specific location, search and rescue crews had no idea where to look, until rangers found his truck at the Horseshoe Canyon trailhead. At that exact moment, a rescue helicopter was already scouring the area near Bluejohn Canyon, hoping to get lucky. At 3:45 p.m., the chopper pilot spotted Aron waving, and he was airlifted to Moab Regional Hospital, about 70 miles away. When Aron arrived at the hospital, he was severely dehydrated, hypothermic, had lost an extreme amount of weight, and had a high risk of sepsis due to dead tissue and unsanitary amputation, and then the blood loss had nearly killed him. Doctors performed emergency care, stabilized him, and cleaned the wound. Amazingly, his self-amputation was clean enough to save his life, though they had to treat the stump and monitor for infection. 4 days later, park rangers hiked into Bluejohn Canyon to retrieve Aron's severed arm. It was still pinned under the 800-pound boulder. The rock had to be partially broken and moved using hydraulic equipment to get to the decayed hand. They recovered the arm, cremated it at Aron's request, and he later scattered the ashes at the exact spot in the canyon where he lost it. Aron Ralston's story made headlines worldwide. He even appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman, Oprah Winfrey, and Good Morning America. He also wrote a memoir, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, published in 2004. Then, in 2010, Danny Boyle directed 127 Hours, starring James Franco, which was nominated for 6 Oscars. The film told Aron's story. However, some details were tweaked to make it more relatable. Aron continued to climb, ski, and speak publicly around the world. Even after the amputation, he also climbed all 59 of Colorado's 14,000-foot peaks. He also became a husband and father, fulfilling the vision he saw during his hallucination in the canyon.